Hey, hello everybody. I'm Philip Johnson. I'm a patient coordinator here at Sponaugle Wellness, and today is one of those great opportunities that we have to talk to our patients. It's a wonderful day and a sad day because it's wonderful that you've had a great improvement, and so you're leaving our facility today, but it's sad because, well, with you folks especially, it's just been a pleasure. And we've got some awesome memories, and we'll talk about that.
We feel the same way.
It's been a wonderful time. So for those of you that are going to be watching this video clip, we love to tell the stories, what take place here, and so glad that these folks are willing to share this with you because as a patient coordinator, I've talked to some of you, I probably will talk to some of you, and I know one of the things that you have to overcome is believing you can get better. You've been disappointed, you've been discouraged, maybe you've seen a host of doctors and some things worked, some things didn't, and you're wondering, are we different? Can I get better? And believe me, I've been in that place and had my own battle with Lyme and all the ugly things that go with it. And the mold gene that we talk about, I got that mold gene. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to introduce these folks and we're going to get right into their story. This is Gregory Hollis. Did I tell you that you and I have the same name? No. My middle name is Gregory.
Oh, cool.
And it never really, you gave me a card and I saw the sign of Gregory and it dawned on me that you and I had the same name. So awesome, dude. I think that means, let me see. Does it mean pastor? Have you ever looked that up? I think it means shepherd or pastor, something like that.
Yes,
I would think it meant handsome.
We have our comedian with us today. It does mean handsome. How can you stop this? You and I have these handsome faces. And you are incredibly handsome. And are these glasses new, by the way? I haven't seen you wearing them as much.
She's got a baseball cap
Got the
on.
baseball cap
And
pulled
that's
down.
why.
You, by the way, should have got the award for the best dressed patient because you always come styling. I thought maybe you were trying to court somebody out there, get a wife or something, because you were always dressed up so
Well,
good.
I am.
You are.
Yeah.
Well, this video is going to be seen by, people all over the world.
Oh, great.
They're going to be looking at this, so you never know. You might have a future wife watching this.
Yeah.
This is Gregory Hollis. This is his wonderful mother, Connie. Aunt Becky's sitting back there. We're going to have to get a picture of her in just a minute. And Miss Connie, you folks are from Texas, and I love Texas folks. We get a lot of Texas folks out here, and strong, rugged, courageous people. And you've demonstrated that. This whole family has demonstrated that through this whole thing. So we'll just be kind of interacting. So I'm going to let you start telling what happened. Well, I mean, what took place?
Greg was working on in the oil fields on a tank, and he was sandblasting. He fell 40 feet, had a closed head injury, and several internal injuries. He spent a month in a coma, and his muscles all contracted, and we've had 20 surgeries over the past 4 years. He's been in a rehab facility up until last June. Came home June 29th. We moved into our house on July the 4th. And so he's been doing, since being home, he's had physical therapy 5 days a week. He's had speech. We've done hyperbaric oxygen therapy. We've had 60 or 80 treatments of that, and each time he's gotten better. His physical therapy is kind of where we were before we came here was kind of plateaued.
Plateaued out, okay.
And so we've just been looking for other options, and just to give Gregory a better quality of life.
So I would imagine in the medical field that at some point, they probably said improvement has come to an end. It is what it is.
Correct.
That kind of a
Yeah.
situation.
Several times we've been told that Greg would not be able to use his legs. They talked about amputating one leg. And
What?
Then when they...
I wouldn't give those things up.
No. And then when they got to looking at how far it would be that he would lose his whole leg.
Okay.
And so we had a failed hip replacement, and we almost lost him that night. And so for several months we didn't have a hip. And so the doctor came in, they called in an oncologist because we had bone growth that was so mass.
Okay.
And everybody says that everyone's blood vessels grow around that.
Okay.
Greg's grew through that. So every time they cut to kind of
Oh.
shake that up, he lost blood
cut
that night.
something.
Yeah. So they brought in this oncologist, and he's the one that told us that Greg would never use his leg, that he would have a dead leg.
Okay.
We are walking now, and we are going to walk into that doctor's office one day and let him know exactly how far Greg can walk. But we've been here nine weeks, and Greg has been in physical therapy while we're doing the treatments here. He is walking, he's standing on his own, he's getting in and out of the car on his own. Becky and I were talking to the next door neighbors the other night, and they're 80 years old, and bless their hearts, Greg scares them to death, I think, sometimes. But Mr. Brown goes, ladies, Greg's getting out of the car, and we turned around, and he was holding on to the door already out of the car. And so, you know.
So these are things you weren't doing before.
No, not at all.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And, I mean, he's gotten himself up out of bed and onto the shower chair, and
Well, we're getting ahead of the story.
Okay,
Okay,
all
those are the great things we want to talk about. Let's backtrack just a
Okay.
little bit, because we were just talking. I think it was in February you initially called. You and I talked in March, and you explained what was going on, what your condition was, and as we briefly shared a moment ago, I was immediately drawn to this situation, to you, and your words just, moved me on the phone, and went home and told my wife, and I remember us praying about it from the first night that we heard. And so because of Greg's condition, and let's back up just a minute. You had was attracted to our website from the brain trauma side of it, and of course we had Bernie Kosar on there, and some wonderful things that he had gone through, and so I imagine that was the part that triggered
Right.
that there might be hope here,
Yeah.
a chance and an opportunity.
I
here.
was doing research on the computer, and as always, I sit down at my computer and I say a prayer and hope that I can find other treatment. And I was on some website, and all of a sudden, on the corner of my computer came this thing that said something about Bernie Kosar, and I thought, he played football. I wonder what he's up to lately, And so I
Okay.
clicked on the story, and I read it, and then I clicked on Dr. Sponaugle's name, and it pulled up y'all's website.
All right.
I'm looking at the website, and I'm bawling,
Yeah.
going, this is where we need to be. Becky and Greg came in from physical therapy that day, and I said, Becky, this is it. This is it. I know they can help us. And she goes, call them. And I said, well, I sent them an email. She goes, call them. So I called, and at that time they were really busy,
Yeah.
And so I waited, and I called back in a month, and I got you on the phone, and I was completely blown away. I was crying when I talked to you.
You were crying.
I mean, I was crying.
I was crying.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, this is where I need to be. And so Becky came in that day, her and Greg, and I said, we have an appointment if I can get, and I had already started getting things, medical records and stuff, just in case I, had heard anything, and I wanted them for my records anyway. And so they came in, and I said, April 15th, and we're going April 15th. Greg had a wedding in Navarro Beach on the 12th, so we just packed up. Everything started working and clicking, and we found the house, and everything was right, right where it needed to be.
Right.
And I tell you what, that phone conversation turned our lives around. And thank you so much.
Oh, I'm just glad that I was the one that got that call.
Me too. Me
so
too.
glad to be a part of all that.
Oh, it was awesome.
So when you came in here, first you're missing something already in this picture, because when you came in you had some sort of a tray, something attached
Right.
here.
I'm in a whole different wheelchair.
Yeah, we borrowed y'all's wheelchair
Yeah,
today.
you don't have your wheelchair
Yeah.
on there today, and you and I talked. This is important. I think this is an important part of the story, Miss Connie, is that, of course, you sent in, and sometimes we do this. I had you send in the medical records because this was a brain trauma, and we wanted to look, and the brain expertise of our doctors is something that just still amazes. Every time I want to hear everything they say, because they understand that brain and brain chemistry so much. And back then I was even training and was part of that original consult that he just had with the notes that you provided for me, and we sat down and looked at them together. And I remember him talking, Dr. Sponaugle talking, saying there are certain parts of the brain that we can really help, and we can increase activity, and we're going to do this with all natural. We're going to use our natural healing drips and supplements, and I'm listening, and I'm trying to figure this out, and how's this going to work?
Right.
And so you coming in was something I wanted to pay extra attention to, because for me as a patient coordinator, you were the first brain trauma that I was going to firsthand see come in here. And so we remember, it's hot here, and every time we come in here and do this, it's...
So you get the lights.
I know. Well,
Okay, we
this
have
is...
to have them on.
We have to have that on too. It's hard to look at, I know.
Yes, sir.
But this is our Hollywood moment. We got to have the right lights.
That's
The
right.
bright lights. You can tell everybody you've been in the bright lights.
We could have one paper towel, please.
Paper towel. Miss Becky.
That's Aunt
My
Becky's job.
trick to get you on camera.
That's your treat to do.
Damn it. Oh, yeah.
All right.
Edit that, please.
Edit that, please.
I did a
My
video.
mom wiping my face.
Edit
All right.
that part.
We'll do that to our editing crew.
Uh-huh.
You go ahead and cut this part out. And you need anything else? Drink water or anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so 3, 2, 1. And here's what I wanted to say, is that for us, there was a lot of these wonderful moments. Our Leanna would holler at me and say, Pastor, you need to come in here and see what's going on. And we'd come running in, and of course all of you would be there, and you would demonstrate another breakthrough. And whether it was memory was one of the first things we began to. So tell us about the memory. What happened here?
Do you remember? Dad?
Yeah.
What you were
I recall something that happened on the TV I saw the day before.
Yeah.
So you were watching TV shows,
Yes, sir.
and if I understand it, you originally, you would not be able to remember from one episode to another.
No,
So
sir.
to you, it was always a brand new take. But I think it was the fourth day, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. It
Fourth
was.
day, we started with our detoxification drips, which for those of you watching, they're going to do several things. We're upregulating the immune system, but they're going to immediately start pulling toxins out. We start optimizing all of the body, every cell, organ, the brain. And so with just 4 days, we came in and we were all just so excited that your memory was just kicking in.
Oh, it was
And,
awesome.
We had another breakthrough where they said, come in here and watch. And you picked up a glass of water.
Yes, sir.
And prior to that, you had used a straw probably, or help.
Yes, he used a cup with a lid on it and a
Okay.
straw. And he, that was it. His spasticity was so bad. And within the first 4 days, that spasticity had cleared up.
Okay.
His brain.
So the spasticity is involuntary,
Right.
you know, movement,
Right.
convulsions or whatever
Right.
going on. Right, that was,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
back on the memory thing,
Yeah.
that, you had just kind of settled down. You weren't just involuntarily moving.
No, his heart rate, remember, his heart rate was like 117.
Yep,
And before we could start the drips, that had to be downsized,
Yep.
you know, down. And so medication brought that down, and it was like 80, and now it's like 68 or
Wonderful.
70, and it's great. And he's able to sit in the chair without wiggling so
Mhm.
much. And so that was the first 4 days, and after that, it's just continued.
continue. You said something, I want to insert something here, that there's a lot of reasons why I feel like this is a very special place. But let's talk about the drips for just a minute and the specialized care. It's not a cookie cutter approach here.
No.
We build our drips here every morning. Everything is uniquely designed on what our proprietary testing, first of all, what our proprietary testing's shown, and then our day-to-day. You know, there's always an involvement. You see one of our nurses every day.
Right.
You were assigned to a particular nurse, and who was that?
Dennis.
Dennis. So we want to certainly praise Dennis for his work and his involvement in here, because he's watching the day-to-day numbers and helping with brain chemistry, and of course in your doctor in this was
Dr. Croziere.
Dr. Croziere. Dr. Croziere was overseeing your medical care, and so it's important for everybody to understand that when a patient comes in here, we literally tailor, the treatment to what we're trying to do, what their overall sickness level was, even to some degree what their tolerance level
Right.
is. And so obviously there was probably some tweaking going on, to try to get, because we were working on, what did we discover? You knew you had a brain trauma, but
Right.
what else did we discover?
Mold
Mold, okay.
and Lyme
Lyme.
and Bartonella.
And Bartonella,
And
yeah.
so the mold gene he can't get rid of.
All right.
And so those were added extras that we didn't know we had, And so when we got here, it was like that was news to us, but it was good news because with the way Dr. Croziere explained it was, these drips are going to be pulling out the toxins, we're going to get rid of that. And actually Greg started killing on his own after like the first drip. And so...
And for folks that, when we use this word killing,
sorry,
Okay.
yes, killing.
a couple of things we need to comment on here. When we use the word killing, we're talking about killing bugs.
Right.
And we do have drips specially designed to do that, but sometimes, and Greg was probably the perfect example of this, just from the beginning of our health drips, our healing IV drips, we're optimizing, the immune system. We're getting the immune system running.
Right.
And when we start doing that, many people, their own killer cells get activated and start tackling these bug
Right.
problems, and so they move into a kill a little early sometimes.
And that was great. And then talking to Dr. Croziere, if we saw him in the hall, he always asked how Greg was. If he didn't see Greg, he always, hey, how's Greg?
Yep.
What's he doing? And how are the drips? Has he had any problems? He was very accessible. Him or Dennis, either one, they were. And we had you always, we could always get a hold of you as well. So
I tried to carve out a few minutes as much as I could, just come out and visit for just a little bit.
I've worked in medical, and the fact that everybody knows your name.
Yep.
Everybody makes it a point to get to know everybody, and I think that was really good. And they, sitting in with Dr. Croziere and Dennis and even Dr. Sponaugle, and the knowledge that's in that room is so overwhelming at times, but it's so interesting.
It is.
And the passion about what the brain is doing, and the charts,
I know.
and going through all of that and going, well, this is this, and I was just so amazed.
Yeah, this is causing this. This is a mechanism that's causing
Right.
this to this.
And learned so many new words
I
that
know.
I didn't even know existed. And so, you know, glutathione and what that does, and, you know, all of this stuff. And I got an education, not just treatment. I got an education. And when I go home, I've got some family members that I'm going, okay, we need to make a trip, you know. But it's just amazing how you're not a number, and you're not, the same treatment's not given for everybody. Yes, we all have the drips and the healing drips, but it's not all the same.
Not that we're going to build them individually
Right.
for you. We do forensic healing here.
Right.
We literally, we create that biochemical blueprint of you. I tell everybody you're going to find out more about yourself here than you had
Right.
going to 20 other doctors.
Right.
And we put all those together. It's like saying, when you see a Dr. Sponaugle, Dr. Croziere, our nurses together, it's like saying 10 specialists at one time. They're able to connect the dots, see the bigger picture, and know that so many of these inner workings of our body, how they're so deeply connected to
Right.
each other, and that this part of your body can't be healthy unless this is working
Right.
correctly.
That's
And
right.
the mold gene that we spoke about, 1 in 4 Americans are going to have, or 1 in 4 people are going to have this. And for those people, they do not detox on their own. They
Right.
can't get rid of these environmental poisonings. And for them, it's very, very important to discover this, because it can lead to some huge health issues in their life. And not only do we discover that, not only are we able to get out those environmental poisonings or mold, but we have a follow-up. You know, we have very special supplements that you can take that, again, all healthy, natural, and they will keep your body pulling these toxins out, so in case you are re-exposed.
Right.
Because we find out with many patients that it could have been the mold, but these things happen to them, the Lyme, the mold, the toxic gut issue, you know, is a big issue. And it drives cravings. These toxins do things, and they can cause your brain to become over-electrified, and you can't calm that brain down.
Right.
And because of it, you have a host of symptoms, and so people often, not understanding any of this, may turn to drugs or alcohol
Right.
to try to calm the brain down, not understanding where it's coming from. It could be a gut issue that's
Right.
causing all of that. And
And
so,
that's right. Greg has the toxic gut, and it was from, we've had 20 surgeries, so we've been on antibiotics.
antibiotics.
When he was little, we had ear problems. He was on antibiotics every 10 days, you know. Plus, because his brain was overactive, he did have alcohol and drug problems.
Okay.
So all of that is still, you know, was still there, causing all this. We had no idea.
No idea that you were giving him antibiotics as
Right.
a child to help earaches or sore throats, not realizing that it was leading to this huge growth, yeast overgrowth,
Right.
and that's not going to stay in the gut.
Right.
Of course, our hormones, to some degree, was that phone or was that the camera?
The phone.
That's the phone.
Okay, fine. Still make sure our camera quit. Hold on one second. I'm just going to check the camera, and for those editing this, we'll have to cut this part out. Okay, we're good. You need anything before we get started?
You okay? You okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, you're the man. So what I started to say, we'll get back on this 3, 2, 1. The hormones, for instance, some of these, their origin is in the intestines. If you have a gut problem going on, that's going to suppress hormone growth, and hormone growth is going, if it's not doing what it needs to do, could suppress some of the brain chemistry that we need, and brain chemistry gets compromised. Well, that's upper management to everything, and now your immune system or a host of issues.
Right.
And so they need to discover that. 99% probably of our patients are going to have a gut issue, and especially those that have been treated for Lyme, the traditional method is going to be antibiotic use,
Right.
and we know, and our patients have proven, that antibiotic use alone will never get rid of the Lyme, and once it's developed and that nasty biofilm's in place, so all these things are taken into considerations. But the exciting thing was every week, so I was there when you drank that glass of water. we talked about you having pizza and picking up that piece of pizza on your own. And let's talk about the hand issue, because I remember that tray. I remember your hands were always just gripping that tray. So what was going on here?
Because of the muscle contractions, his hands had, from the accident, his hands had drawn up and he'd keep them like this. And he'd always hold them on the tray to try to get them to stay open.
Okay.
And so that was his way of doing that. And was it last weekend before last?
I believe so.
He said, "Mom, look at my hands." And all of a sudden, look at that. They're open. He can use them. Each finger is bending, and that is contributed to the drips and to the supplements that were taken. I just all of a sudden, everything is starting to fall into place. It's just amazing what goes on here. We have met so many people, and Greg's story is a little different, but every single one of them has had nothing to say but good things. And you see people come in at the same time as you, and they're hurting so bad, and then within a week to 2 weeks, you see color starting coming back into their face. That's what amazes me.
Yeah.
Greg's color and complexion has changed. We came in with some really special people, and just to see them go home and see the fact that they can recall or whatever, I feel like that y'all have given me my son back. In my wildest dreams, Pastor, I never dreamed. I didn't know what I was getting when I came. I said, I'm taking that step of faith, and I'm going to do this. And I remember telling Greg, if it's not what we think it's about, I said, we'll just take it a vacation, and and so we got here, and listening to Dr. Croziere, things started clicking in my head, going, oh my gosh, that makes sense. When someone sits and shows it to you in black and white and explains it to you how everything works, it's just amazing.
It is.
And the lectures were so interesting. You'd leave wanting more,
But you do. You want to learn more and more. It's fascinating.
And, yes, the brain is wired and everything, it has to do with everything. But the little bit of mold and Lyme that he had and the biofilm, and it was just, once that started clearing out, he got clearer. He's, able to recall things. We've laughed and carried on and just like old times. But the thing is, he wasn't like this before we got here.
Okay.
He was able to do nothing. It took Becky and I to get him out of the car. It took us to get him into bed. We cut his pizza up, and he used a fork that was made for him.
Okay.
We're not doing that now. He's using a regular fork, drinking out of a regular cup.
Wonderful.
And because of this, he is getting better, and he is thinking clearer. He said to me the other day, Mom, my brain feels clear. I haven't heard that from him at all. He's taken the Celgevity. He says feels like his eyes are getting better. He
Wonderful.
can see, so it works. And
Well, this is important because when I talked to you about coming down here, you and I had this heart-to-heart talk, and it was based upon, in order for you to come here, you need to, and I don't have this conversation with everybody, but this was a brain trauma situation. And at that time, we didn't even know about bugs and mold, that he may have any of that.
Right.
So our conversation was, we tried to establish an expectation level. So if it was only 10% improvement,
Right,
you said, if it's only 10% improvement, we'll be glad to do it.
right.
And I remember you and I standing in the hallway, maybe the second week you were here, and I said, Miss Connie, I think we've already had our 10%. What do you want to do?
I said, I'm staying.
And you said, we're going to go for some more. That's
right,
right, we're
I'm
staying. And I'm so glad that you did.
And,
You know.
and, you know, you said earlier, it's bittersweet. Greg had told me this morning, he said, I don't want to leave. I'm going to let you and Aunt Becky go home, and I'm staying. So, but, you know, everybody has become family,
Yeah.
and there is no other place like this.
It's a very special place.
Very special place. And the fact is, God is here. God is doing wonderful things here. The people that are chosen in this office were chosen for each individual reason, whatever their special task is. But I've run a doctor's office, and it doesn't run this way. You know, from the moment you come in, and Stephanie's behind that desk, she's got a smile on her face, and she greets you.
Yeah.
And then after that, everybody you see has a smile on their face, and hi, how are you? I'm so and so, and you know, and you get to meet everybody in this building, and you can just feel that God is here,